W140 S-Class, the big Benz that we all know. Now, Mercedes-Benz spent over $1 billion in like 1970s or 80s money, which is today the equivalent of, I don't know, you can probably buy like a B-2 stealth bomber. And this car is just so packed with technology, even for today. And I'm going to show you around this car, and I'm also going to give it a test drive, so stay tuned. And what we have right here is a 1997 S320. And now you can also get this car with like S420 and an S500, those are V8s, and also even a V12 6-liter S600. And that's why you have this huge imposing hood, because you just have to fit that big V12 in here. Anyway, here at the front you get a grille. This is like the standard grille. If you get the S600, you have like what they call like an avant-garde grille, so there's more slats to it and it looks rather nice. Unlike newer Mercs, you still have your beautiful hood star, which is definitely a welcome addition to these cars. It just adds to that more stately prestige look to it. Now your headlamps, this is what I love about these 90s cars. They're still made out of glass, so none of that weird plastic thing that could scratch. And in fact, you can even get this car with like headlamp wipers, because anyway, I mean, why not, right? Now as you move on over here to the side, you can see again just how big and imposing this car was. This is, after all, the big Benz is what they would call it. I mean, just look at the size of it. It's just so massive. You know, this car is a bit hard to drive. It's definitely one of the biggest cars I've ever driven. It's probably like driving a Suburban, but low. Yes, that's how big this car is. The lines all over. It's definitely a much cleaner looking car, a much curvier looking car compared to its predecessor, the W126. And you also have these really thick double pane glass. Now this is a long wheelbase model, but how can you tell, right? So you just look at the rear door, but the front's the same. But the rear door, the thing about it is that if you get a short wheelbase one, you get like square doors. But since this is around 4 inches longer, you get these rectangular doors and windows. If you open this door, just look at how long that is. I really love the doors on these cars. Now for your tires, you get these 235 60/16s, which are definitely really hard to find. It's in this Benz 3, we call it the Benz 3 rims, which again looks really nice. This is a refurbished rim, so I had this repainted again, and it's looking rather nice. One nice quirk of this W140 is that you get two wipers, unlike a W124, which has like single monoblade telescoping wiper. Instead, this car has two, one of which is telescoping, while the other one is just like a standard wiper. However, what's cool about it is that no matter if you get like a left-hand drive W140 or a right-hand drive W140, the wipers always swing to the what normally would be normal for a right-hand drive car. So that's just really fun to note. Here at the back of the S320, now let's start with the emblem. So S320, you might see, if you're not that acquainted with Mercedes-Benz, that there are some of these cars that says like 300 SEL. Well, that's because that was the pre-facelift cars before Mercedes changed their nomenclature in like 1994, 1995. But then after that, well, they stuck with the S first as an S-Class and 3.2 because it is a 3.2-liter engine. Anyway, here at the back, it's again very square. Even these rear windshield, it's nice and big and rather like boxy, square looking. But this thing is just so, look at this light bar right here. It's so revolutionary. I mean, this is something, this design is still something that we've been seeing a lot lately with like 2020 and 2021 cars, but Mercedes already had them in the 90s. These lights too, I don't know, they look very timeless. I love the look on it. Now the party trick of the W140 starts here, because if you open this one up by pressing this, you see this pop out? So this handle right here extends automatically so that you won't have to touch your dirty car or your freshly cleaned car for that matter. And if you close this one back up, it sucks itself like that. And then now I'll show you the trunk. And as you open it up, you reveal this really big trunk. Maybe you can fit like 2 or even 3 golf clubs in there, or human bodies, dead human bodies maybe. And if you open this one up, you also get your tools right here. They're not complete at the moment. And under that, you get your full-size spare tire, which you just don't get anymore in cars nowadays. You also get this original jack from Mercedes with a 140 part number. Now, unfortunately, the seats, they do not fold like 60/40 because you do have reclining electric seats. So that's just something to look out for if you want to carry longer items. So under the hood of the W140 S320, You have this 3.2 liter M104 inline 6 engine, which produces 230 horsepower and 350 Newton meters of torque. Now, as you can see, despite this being the rather base model like, well, there's an S280, but rather base model inline 6 engine version, the engine bay is already relatively packed. So imagine having that big S600 V12 engine in here. Everything's just so hard to work on, so I would highly suggest you do avoid that car and get one of these instead, or the V8. Here inside the interior, first let's check the thud of the door. And again, that's one of the best sounding thuds. S-classes are always one of the best. Now let's start the car up. This is the flip key it has. Fires right up like that. Let's turn on the AC. Okay, so in here, the materials, they're definitely amazing. The build quality is just great. This car is now turning, well, 24 years old, yet everything is just holding up so well. The leather, the wood, they're all still kind of brand new looking. So up top, you get nice leather. This is the special leather package, the 518 interior code. So aside from stitched leather all around on the dashboard, you also get stitched leather on the side, here on the center console, and the seats too. Look at this different rectangular pattern instead of the usual Y-shaped pattern you get the W140s. All right, now the steering wheel, it's definitely big. It befits the car of this size. What's quite annoying about the steering wheel is that although you can like telescope it, you can't tilt it unless, the only way you can tilt this is if you have the memory seats. So if you get this car with memory seats, this steering wheel will also be electrically adjustable. Aside from telescoping, it'll also tilt. So that's just kind of annoying. Now the seats in this car, they're definitely really good. They're so comfortable. They're 12-way power adjustable with lumbar support. Plus, you can also move the headrest electronically. And if you notice these seatbelt things, there's no way to like move it up or down if you're tall or not. Instead, once you move your seats, it knows how tall you are, and it also moves accordingly, automatically. Again, it's a 24-year-old car, yet that still works. Now, my favorite thing about these seats are this function right here. So that moves your thigh support. So no matter how long your legs are, no matter if you're like 6'5", you'll always definitely feel and find the most optimum driving position, right? Your gauge cluster. Your gauge cluster is a very traditional gauge cluster. You have a clock to the right, and everything else is just very 90s Mercedes. So for example, you have something that says liters per 100 kilometers, and it only gives you like an arbitrary figure real time. It doesn't give you like your average thing, which is honestly quite useless. I guess if you're going on the motorway, that will kind of help you modulate your throttle a little. Here in the center, you have this thing for your storage. Now press this one up. Right now it's blank, right? That's because this is a rather low spec car. However, if you get one of those S600s with that special package, what you'll have here is like that keypad thing for you to dial, while you have a big 90s phone here to call anyone you want, your business contacts. Close that one back up. Over here you have a glove box. Inside there is a cup holder that is one big joke. It's so hard to use, nothing will fit in there. You got this climate control. As you can see, it's one solid piece and it's electronic. That's because this is the facelift model. Pre-facelift, before like 1995, what you had back here instead was like so many buttons that you just don't know what exactly they do, and that's really hard to use. You get your door lock switches in the middle. It's really nice. I like that in Mercedes instead of like there at the door. And you also get the hazard switch, and it's just so satisfying to click on. That sharp, solid click to it. Below that, you get this head unit. Now, this car already came with what they call the Becker head unit, Becker branded head unit. However, that's long gone, and instead we have this rather pure collect looking Blaupunk Heidelberg RCM 40, which still works, and it's really nice. Now again, below that, more wood trim. Open this one back up, and you have like a small cup holder, ashtray, not a cup holder, just an ashtray and a 12-volt outlet. You have this shifter, which you can shift all the way to 1 manually, and just to the left of that, you have like winter and standard mode. Again, as with most Mercedes reviews, I have to reiterate that this is not your sport mode. This is your standard mode, but in a way, your winter is your standard in the normal car, and the S, I guess, is your sport mode in a standard car. So yeah. Now, one of the most annoying things about this W140, that's one thing that definitely just detracts from the premium look of this car, is this air vents. So here in the front, you don't exactly see it that much. It's not that bad, but once you start sitting at the back, you're gonna see that your center console is straight like that, but then this thing is like angled ever so slightly. No, not even ever so slightly, like crazily angled to the right, which it really detracts from all the symmetry in this car. It's quite annoying. Let's I guess forgive that for now. Let's go back here in the center, and you have this switch to change your side mirrors, to like adjust them. However, what's interesting about these W140s, not for this facelift model, but for the pre-facelift, if you set the thing to the center and you move it, this rear view mirror, the center rear view mirror moves electrically, which again, in 1990, is just amazing. However, a lot of people tended to like move them and break the motors, and that reason, together with cost cutting, Mercedes decided to remove that for the facelift model. Open this one up and you get this nice big center storage, and this one also doubles as an armrest, so you can move it like this, just like that. It'll click, and the way you bring it back down is you lift it all the way up, then down like that. Up top you get Alcantara headlining, which is really nice. It's together, it's a special thing with this 518 special leather package. Usually it's just some like weird cloth thing, but for this one it's just like velvet, those red velvet cakes. Yes, it reminds me of that. You can also open the sunroof. However, as you can see, it's metal, so there's no glass in this car. You can, most of the US versions, they did have glass, but this one, it doesn't have it. The back seat is the best place to be in a W140. After all, this is the long wheelbase car. So anyway, let's first check the thud of the door. I work in a bank, and that's pretty much how the vault sounds. It's that amazing. Okay, now anyway, back here, the materials, just like the front, they're top quality, top shelf stuff. Like your headliner, it's the same as the front. It's Alcantara, of course. Here, all this leather and wood, everything is just like leather or wood back here. You have this armrest right here, and if you open that up, you get two jokes of a cup holder as well. You absolutely can't put anything back there, but at least it's lined with the same felt-like material as, like, I don't know, the jacket, like a cashmere jacket. It's really nice to the touch. You can just like feel this all day. Anyway, closing that one back up. Now, what toys do you get back here? Since it's a long wheelbase form, your best toy is of course the legroom. You can cross your legs like this. What else can you do? You can like absolutely sit back here. It is that big. I'm telling you, it is that big. And you can also recline your seats, which is a function mostly long wheelbase cars had. You can get them with some short wheelbase cars, but usually it's the long wheelbase cars that have them. But do note that not all long wheelbase cars have them, so this is a nice option to have. You can also move your headrest for it to fold down so the driver can see more using the switch, but currently it is broken, unfortunately. Now, if you want to seat 3 people here, no problem at all. This car is just incredibly wide. You can even seat like 4 or 5 people here. I'm not kidding, as long as you're not on the obese side. Then, if you're seated here in the middle as well, you also get an unobstructed view of the 3-pointed star from Mercedes. Really, really nice touch to it. Okay, now finally, let's go back here. What else do you have here? Air vents, of course, you need that, and rear vanity mirrors with lights. That's just so good. You also get reading lamps at the side. If you're an owner of this car back in the 90s, chances are you're a very important person, so a single scratch alone can cost the demise of the entire country, because you're probably the president after all. So what do you need? A first aid kit, a Mercedes first aid kit, which is now like 24 years old, so I think you get an infection from using that, so just don't touch that. But it's nice to know that you have one. So driving the 1997 Mercedes-Benz S320 W140, as you set off, the first thing that will just get at you immediately is just how huge this car is. I'm just turning this car, parking this car. It's ridiculously big. I mean, if you're used to driving like really, really large sedans, maybe you're used to driving like Rolls Royces, is no problem at all. However, if you're not used to driving larger cars, this car is really hard. It's just incredibly big, it's incredibly wide, and it's also incredibly long. The best thing about this car is the comfort that it can deliver you. So it's just so serene in here. It's so quiet. Wind noise, tire noise, even my like 2014, my 7-year-old tires, plus some of my seals are already falling apart. Despite all that, it is just still so quiet in here. The suspension too, it's the best suspension you can ever get in any car. It's better than the LS430 when it comes to the suspension. It's just so soft, like it's a magic carpet ride. You know, everyone talks about like the S-Class magic carpet ride, and you just need to feel one to know it, to understand it, to fathom just how smooth an S-Class is. Because I mean, no matter how big like the speed bumps are, yes, you kind of feel them. However, it doesn't jolt you in any way. So oftentimes I would be driving along Ortigas Avenue. So it's this road here in Manila that is just like, there's so much of those manholes to the side near the sidewalk. And every time you just drive over them, it's so annoying because your car just like, book, 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 book. But this one, no. You don't feel that here. It's as if the S-Class is telling you like, jolts? We don't do that here. You know, a lot of people will say like, why would you get the S320 over the S500 or the S420 or even the S600? Well, for starters, the S600 is incredibly hard to maintain, so that's out of the window. That's definitely out of the question. Why not the S500 and the S420? After all, they return about the same gas mileage as this car. Well, they're not exactly the easiest to find in the country. I've driven one though. I've driven the S500 once just around the parking lot, and from the get-go, you'll just feel how much more power that car has. Now, a lot of people also will say that this car is definitely underpowered. No, it's not. Unless you probably live in North America where most of your commute will be highways, like motorways, freeways, expressways. This car is more than enough. After all, I do live in Manila where we have really, really small roads, and this car is definitely more than enough. So now we're just gonna put this car into like a standard mode, yes, and I'm just gonna floor this car, and the exhaust mode is not bad. And yeah, that's almost 100. It's just so good. But if you do want to overtake and you want to change lanes fast, there's a little bit of body roll. It is kind of scary. As long as you don't push it too hard, the car is going to be fine. It can hold itself really well. Again, it's definitely not as good as like an S500. It's not as smooth either in terms of the power delivery. However, that's fine because this car is not really meant to go fast. This car is meant to be driven in a very comfortable, relaxed manner. Let's just do it again while putting it over a turn. Oh, that's wheel spin right there. And all right, let's go 60. I'm just flooring it right now. It's so comfortable even at speed. You don't really feel it. I'm doing like 120 right now, and you just don't feel it. It's just so smooth. It's buttery smooth. Not the engine. We could do better than that, but the overall car, the double pane glass, the insulation and everything, it's just so good. I don't think there's any car from the 90s or even like the 2000s that could easily match this car in terms of comfort, except for, well, the Lexus LS430, which I reviewed a while back, and that was just exceptional. That was so good to ride, so good to drive. This car, it can match, kind of. Steering in this car, it's absolutely numb. It's so light. It's as if like Mercedes gave zero crap about like handling, because I mean, it is a large sedan after all, so handling is definitely not the priority for this one. But I mean, just feel how light that steering is, and if you do decide to do that for some reason, you can get kind of seasick. It's a bit too soft, but it's fine because the trade-off for that is, the positive trade-off for that is an incredibly smooth ride. One annoying thing about this car is the rear sunshade. So I forgot to mention the rear sunshade. So this car has a rear sunshade. It's a power rear sunshade, so you can turn it up by yourself in the front. For some reason, you can't turn it up from the back, so your VIP at the back has to beg you to put it up for them if ever the sun is a bit too harsh. However, what's annoying about it is that in most cars that have like an electric rear sunshade, like the Lexus or even a Camry for that matter, the very moment you put the car into reverse, the sunshade goes down, right? But this one, it doesn't. So you have to put it down manually, and it's a bit slow. It's quite annoying. This car also used to have one of those parking poles thingy before the facelift, before like 1994, 1995. And that should help you like see the corners of the car. However, for this facelift model, they decided to remove that and instead add optional, again, I reiterate, optional parking sensors, which by the way, my car doesn't have. So given the size of this car, it's just so notoriously hard to park. Just the road presence that it provides because of just how big it is, and everyone sees that three-pointed star and just goes like, whoa, it's a Merc, we gotta stay away. And before owning a Merc, I didn't believe that to be true. I thought that was just like a bunch of rich Mercedes owners flaunting their wealth, you know, being obnoxious, but it's actually true. Even if this car today cost cheaper than a brand new Vios, around half the price of a brand new Vios. If you don't know what a Vios is, it's basically a sedan version of the Yaris. Yet this is just, the road presence is something else. If I want to turn into like an intersection, and here in Manila, it's a first come, it's not a first come first serve thing. It's like how much are you willing to risk being in an accident? That's what determines who goes ahead in an intersection. This car definitely goes ahead a lot. Like, people actually stop for you, they wait for you, they respect the Merc. That's a term. Respect the Merc. That's what you get when you drive around in a Mercedes-Benz S-Class.